So obviously, we've seen the show that happened yesterday, UFC 296, and on paper, it seemed like it was a very good card. Obviously, you had Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington at the top of the bill. You had the flyweight fight between the flyweight champion. You had obviously you had Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Piblet. You had Shavkat versus Stephen Thompson. Obviously, the Vicente Luque versus Ian Gary fight got cancelled. But on paper, the card looked like it was decent. I'm not saying it's one of the best cards ever, but it was a decent card, in my opinion. It's a decent card on paper. But unfortunately, I think the card itself was a bit lackluster. I felt like, obviously, the Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington fight was quite boring. Now, sometimes styles just don't mesh. And for some reason, Colby Covington, even though he's a great fighter and he is one of the most athletically gifted and best fighters in the sport today, he is quite a boring fighter. He's not the most exciting fighter. He's not someone who finishes the show. He's someone who generally, he's generally someone who likes to eke out point decision wins. And unfortunately, that's not that exciting. Colby, for whatever reason, just did not perform, and he did not make the fight more interesting than it should have been. The flyweight fight was decent, but I found it a little bit boring. There was constantly like scrambling. The Shavkat fight versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson just did not have any resistance for Shavkat. Shavkat was just too dominant, and obviously it submitted him in 2 rounds. The Tony Ferguson versus Paddy Piblet fight was quite entertaining. I thought that was a decent fight. It was a decent fight, but both of them, I would argue, look terrible in there. The Bryce Mitchell versus Josh Emmett fight. Josh Emmett obviously destroyed Bryce Mitchell. That was compelling and good to watch. That might be the highlight of the entire night, to be honest with you, in terms of the televised card. But the rest of it, I don't think it was that great. In terms of what we've learned that we've learned that obviously Leon Edwards is better than Colby Covington. Colby Covington should not get another title shot. And what else we've learned is that Shavkat might be the future of the division. He might be the truth, and he might be the future UFC welterweight champion and possibly middleweight champion as well. But overall, I don't think the card was that great. It was decent, but it wasn't anything special. Tell me what you think below. Do you think the card was decent? Do you think it was a good card? I think it was a decent card, but it wasn't anything special. And I thought the fights themselves were lackluster, and the main event especially was terrible. Tell me what you think below, and like and subscribe to the channel. I've got a lot more content coming your way. Peace.